Hiya. I've decided to set up this YouTube channel called After the Affair because a year ago I discovered that my partner of 5 years had been having an affair. And when obviously, once this had all blown up, when I was trying to look for some resources to help me try and understand what had happened, why it had happened, and when I was just sort of blindly looking around for some support, I turned to YouTube. But what I found was there are plenty of channels out there which talk about affairs and talk about recovering from affairs. But the people that I found who were talking on those channels, I didn't really feel as though I identified with them. Now, that was about a year ago, so things may have changed a bit in the past year, but generally, I just felt like there was a little bit of a gap out there, really. There's quite a few American channels, um, and don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with American YouTubers, but there was no one who I really felt sort of drawn to and who I really wanted to listen to, and just no one out there that I particularly found very helpful, to be honest. Um, there are a few channels which give sort of some bullet points for how to affair proof your marriage. There are YouTubers out there who look to help you heal your relationship after an affair, but I found that quite a lot of them were quite heavily, some of them are quite religious. Other times it was very sort of counsellor speak or psychological um, chat, which, don't get me wrong, I am very interested in psychology, but I just felt like I could really do with someone who was just down to earth, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, who I could just listen to and possibly interact with. And I just didn't find anyone. Maybe I was looking in the wrong places, but this is my reason for um, starting my own channel, really. Now, I'm not actually, as you can see, I'm not doing a video showing my face. I've had a long, hard think about it, and my reason for staying anonymous at the moment, anyway, is because I don't really want my stepdaughter. She's still fairly young. She's still at primary school, and I don't want her, at this point in time, at least, to know what's happened. I'm still together with her dad. We're trying to patch our relationship up, and well, actually, I wouldn't say patch our relationship up. I'd actually say we've sort of started again from scratch, really. Um, so we are still together. She isn't aware that anything's happened, although I'm sure children do pick up on things subconsciously, but she's not aware that anything untoward has happened, and I don't necessarily think it would be a good thing for her to know. So, yeah, for the time being, I've decided I'm just going to keep anonymous. I hope that's okay, and I hope you can treat this really as more of a podcast rather than a YouTube video. Um, Yeah, and I hope that you find what I have to say helpful, even if it is just to feel as though you're not alone out there. I think that was one of my overriding feelings when I first found out, was of just loneliness. Because even though me and my partner decided to stay together, I had, he was my best friend, and he had betrayed me in a way so deeply that it didn't matter how much prosecco and how many hours I spent crying, and how many times I went to the gym and just sort of belted out my anger on the treadmill. Um, Nothing was going to make me feel any less lonely. Um, and yeah, and I could have done at that time, certainly I really felt as I could have done with a friend who, could just understand where I was coming from. I do have friends who've been in positions whereby their relationships haven't been ideal, but I don't think that any of them have been in exactly the same position as me, in that, it was either sort of one night stands or sexting, or it was something very different and they then split up from their other half. I'm the only one of in my group of friends who have been aware that their partner has had a long-term affair, but I'm still with him and still trying to slog it out. So, yeah, so I thought I'd just kick off really by giving you a little bit of background to me. And then I guess just at the end, I'll maybe ask you to just leave me a comment if you want to, if you feel able to. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people out there who want to remain anonymous and maybe who don't want to comment. That's fine. But really, I'd just like your feedback. I'd like to hear from you to see whether you think this is something that might help you. And if so, what kind of things you'd like me to talk about. Um, yeah, and whether you think this will be useful at all. So, yeah, so I'll just start by sort of saying that I found out, it's coming up to a year ago, that I found out my other half was having an affair. He was going through a really tough time at work. I won't go into details, but his company was in a shocking state. He'd been betrayed by one of his work colleagues, and that meant that he was working very long hours, working extremely hard, and he was struggling with it all. It was severely affecting his mental health. So some days he struggled to get out of bed in the mornings. And what happened was that at that time he became closer to another work colleague. He was actually her boss. She was married. She still is married, as far as I'm aware. And yeah, they started to have. Well, he doesn't really like the word affair because he sees it as something that didn't involve love or romance or nice cozy dinners. It was purely a physical affair. I'm just going to call it an affair because in my mind, whether there's romance and love or whether there isn't, you're still having an affair. You know, other people may disagree, and I'm sure that there are different levels of betrayal, and possibly if your partner is in love with someone else, I would imagine that must be even harder to cope with. Um, I'm not in that position, so yeah, really, what I'm left coping with is the aftermath of the lies, the deceptions, the uh, betrayal, the um, just the fact that he was having sex with someone else, the gaslighting, which I don't know if you've become aware of this term, but it so for example, if I questioned him on something, he would make out that I was going mad. He would make out, not that I was going mad, but he would make out that I was just being jealous, that it was basically that it was my fault, that there was nothing that he was doing wrong. And so gradually that can sort of erode your confidence, your self-esteem. Um, at the time when I discovered the affair, I knew that something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. When I look back now, the signs were absolutely abundantly obvious, but I just trusted him. I completely trusted him. And also the fact that his company was in trouble, so he was working late. That masked some of the other signs. His libido was lower. Um, he was a little bit oh, acting a little bit suspiciously at times, but I just put it down to his concern for the business. So I found out in a very sort of classic way by I was just tidying up our bedroom, and I went to put away a pair of his suit trousers, checked the pockets as I always do, because I was putting them to be washed, so I always check the pockets, take out any loose change or receipts and general bump, and found a receipt for a hotel, which he managed to sort of excuse it. He managed to pass it off as being a receipt for a meeting room in the hotel. But I had lingering doubts, and I then decided to check his emails to see whether there was anything suspicious going on there, and lo and behold, there were some very explicit emails between him and his work colleague, telling each other exactly what they wanted to do to each other in the office. So yeah, that's how I found out. As I say, we're now a year down the line. We have been to couples counselling. He has been for individual counselling. I have been to individual counselling. We've made vast changes in our relationship to try and protect our relationship from any future problems. We've both been brutally honest with each other about the reasons why it happened and the reasons for staying together, and what we both need to change in order to move forward into the future. So there's been a lot of big changes, and it's going okay. It is going okay. Ups and downs, and a lot of anger, a lot of tears, a lot of heartache. But I think we're getting there, but it's hard. It's very hard, and particularly for me, it's hard. It's a daily it's a daily thing. I can have good days, I can have bad days. Some days I will think about the affair almost constantly, but on a good day, I will only think about it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, let's say, throughout the day. A year ago, I was thinking about it pretty much constantly. And if I ever got a bit of a break from thinking about it, um, that would be an absolute relief. But then I'd suddenly remember, and then the shock of remembering it um, would almost be just as hard as if I'd been constantly thinking about it. So, um, there's progress there. Um, I am taking antidepressants. I have been for about 8 months now. I tried to go without any help at all, but that didn't work for me. So yeah, but as I say, I think we are moving forward. I think we have a very different style relationship now, and that is really the only way we can move forward. So yeah, I don't want to get too bogged down in my story and my what happened with me, because I'm not sure that is what you would like to hear. I'm not sure that that's helpful for you. But really, that's just a bit of backstory for me, so you know where I'm coming from. So yeah, as I said before, if you have any comments, um, if you have any thoughts or on what you would like me to talk about, or if there's any resources that you think would be helpful for you, if you could leave them in the comments, that would be lovely. I really look forward to hearing from you. And yeah, as I say, I really hope that this is going to be helpful, because that that will mean that this, pretty awful part of my life can at least be turned into a good thing. If it can help others, that will be that will help to give it some meaning. But yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening, and I hope to speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye.